first thing with the NBA deadline today. I don't think there'd be much juice with that. If you want to get into it, feel free. Let's go on to option number 2, and that is the baseball, where I think you've noticed here, this is going to be very, very interesting to see how these teams handle these 60 to 162 games and the advance with the schedule. Now, we've had a lot of injuries so far here in the last couple of weeks in the sport. I don't know if I can tie it up to players ramping up for a long year, unlike last year, which was a sprint. This year now a marathon. Elano Jimenez, the Cubs superstar, who they got from the White Sox superstar, who they got from the Cubs, has got pectoral tendon surgery upcoming. He's out 5 to 6 months. Heard it the other day, jumping up against the center field fence, trying to take a home run away in an exhibition game. That is a big loss for the White Sox, who are everybody's trendy pick. And now, having lost him for basically the season, maybe he comes back in September. I don't know if the White Sox will push that. We'll have to wait and see, but he is out, major surgery, and I think this is going to really play into what the sport's about here in 2021. There's this is going to be a situation where you need depth. You're going to need a lot of pitchers. The 5-man rotation, you're going to have to give people the days off. You're going to have to utilize your bullpen properly. You're going to have to give people rest. I mean, they're very nervous about these injuries to begin with. These GMs get very, very conservative of trying to, basically pace their team after over 162 games. You think Kyrie Irving is bad. Wait till you see what's going on with some of these ball clubs in 2020. You're going to have a lot of guys take some time off that I think teams are very scared, very leery of rushing back into a full-throttled season after basically, playing a quickie 60 last year with a amputated and an interrupted spring training. And then, of course, the 60 games in a quick period of time, lots of double headers. And I think you'll see a lot of the teams this year, and teams last year took advantage of that. I think Miami did, making the postseason, 31-29. I think Tampa did to a degree of winning the American League East. They don't have the greatest depth in the world, so I think they can take advantage of that. I think this year it's going to be a little different. Remember, too, the minor league is going to be delayed a month, so there's not going to be a situation where you're going to have to, take it easy a little bit early, send your guys to the minor leagues. They got to get some playing time in, and you got to get that going too. So teams are going to be very, very conservative out of the gate. They're going to play their whole roster. You're going to see a lot of I think you're going to see some 6-man rotations early in the season. If, in fact, they can find 6 pitchers, I think you'll see some openers in play. Tampa's going to do it. You'll see some of that in play too. I think you're going to be very, there's no way the Yankees are going to go out there and push Garrett Cole and Corey Kluber early in the year. Dodgers are not pushing Kershaw and Walker Buehler early in the year. They're not going to do it. They're going to see how this season, how it handles the players' bodies and how they figure it out, and how they adapt to playing again basically every day for 6 months, when they didn't do that really last year. Now, the 7-inning doubleheaders, when there's the doubleheader, that will help. The 10th inning scenario to avoid that 20-inning marathon game will help with the man on second base. And I do think that you will see eventually, when the minor leagues come back into play, you'll see lots of call-ups. Last year, each team used an average of 43 players to get through the 60 games. You're going to see a lot more than that this year as far as the sport is concerned. Now, as far as the White Sox go, it's funny in the American League, 2 teams that, were sort of a hot team in the wintertime and a team that was trendy. Everybody liked what they saw out of them going into spring training. Have really been decimated here by some injury. The Blue Jays lose Yates. The Blue Jays, I'll wait and see here about Springer. He says he'll be back opening day. I'll believe it when I see it. Robbie Ray, another guy a little banged up. The White Sox now lose Jimenez. That's a major blow for them. Now, I'm not trying to make Jimenez out to be, Paul Konerko, but Jimenez is a guy that they had high. He's got a chance to be a hell of a player. He's a young hitter. I mean, he's got a chance to be great. And I don't know what his numbers were last year at the top of my head, but, losing him takes away some of their offense. And the White Sox are a team that, have built for this year. Their owner is 85. Reinsdorf's not young. He's 85 years of age. I think he'd like to win a championship before it's not too, before too long. That's why he brought La Russa in. And losing Jimenez is a big blow to the White Sox. Now, that division isn't phenomenal, but still, it is something to keep an eye on. And he's not the only guy that's been banged around. Carrasco's out for the Mets, torn hamstring. It's going to be a while before you see him. I'd say at least a couple of months. The Mets do not have great starting pitching after Carrasco. Stroman's okay. Dave Peterson's okay. Syndergaard's hurt. That's an issue we got to keep an eye on with him. Strasburg has been banged up a lot and got a calf issue in spring training. This is a guy that didn't pitch one inning last year with the carpal syndrome with his fingers, had the surgery, so that's an issue too. A lot of teams, it's going to be very interesting with the injury scenario and the spring and the minor leagues beginning May 1st. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how some of these teams handle it here as the season gets kicked off here in a week. It's not that far off a week. You got to play 162 games in 183 days, and it's a lot of baseball, and there's not 7 teams in the playoffs. So it's not a situation where you can sort of pick your move, make you a one great run, and then play basically be 20-5 over a 25-game period, be 500 the rest of the way, win 87 games and make the playoffs. That's not going to happen. Not this year. There's only 5 teams getting in, and they're not going to extend that. There's not going to be 7. There's not going to be a last-ditch agreement for that. There's going to be no DH, so pitchers are going to have to run the bases and bat. That's something, too, that you're going to have to keep an eye on. The injury factor this year in the sport is going to be a major issue. We're going to have to look at it every day based on the idea that you're talking about, a lot of players who haven't played a full season in 2 years. 162 games is a lot of work. No minor league help first month of the year with the delay. Teams being cautious to begin with, 6-man rotations, injuries out of the gate. It's going to be teams with depth will have a chance. Dodgers got a lot of pitchers. Gonsolin, May, Bauer, Buehler, Urias, Kershaw. That's 6 pitchers. If they want to go to a 6-man rotation, they can go to a 6-man rotation. The Yankees with Montgomery, Kluber, Cole, a lot of young kids, whether they be Herman, who's back, whoever they want to use, they probably, at the end of the day, if they wanted, could go to a 6-man rotation. USC teams do that as much as possible here to spare some throws with their starters. I promise you that. Going to be an interesting year from that standpoint in the sport. It's going to be drudgery for a lot of these teams getting used to getting back into a day-in, day-out basis of, playing baseball every day. The travel too. Last year there was geographic travel. There wasn't coast-to-coast travel. So that's going to take its toll as well. And I think you see some things. Now, I don't want to tie in these spring training injuries to, players not used to, getting into shape for 162 games. I mean, a torn hamstring can happen to anybody. That's what happened to Carrasco. Calf issue can happen to anybody. That's what happened to Strasburg. Bleak can happen to anybody. That's what happened to Springer. Tommy John can happen to anybody. That's what happened to Yates. A pectoral injury could happen to anybody. That's what happened to Jimenez. Discomfort in his shoulder, that's what happened to Tatis. These injuries can happen to anybody, so you got to keep that in mind here. I don't want to make too big a deal about it, but it is something that we are going to have to consider here down the road with some of these ball clubs. So we shall see what develops down the stretch with the 2021 baseball season. It is beginning in a week, and I'm looking forward to it. I really am. It sounds like the players may have been right not wanting to push back the season into May 1st. I mean, obviously, there's been very few COVID cases so far in spring training. A couple of guys, Abreu of the White Sox. There's been a couple little delays, but no major issues. So the season is not going to be impacted by that at all. And, we begin next Thursday. So, to have a full season would be fun. I think you'll be in a situation where USC fans, as the season moves along, and it's back to the old ways, the purest way, with only the 10 teams making the playoffs, 5 in each league. We'll get Sean McAdam on in a sec. Our good buddy is Zig Frikazi. He's got a sports bite half past here on Mad Dog Unleashed.